When you think of iconic superstars taunts, you think of Daniel Bryan doing the yes chant or Stone Cold Steve Austin performing his iconic turnbuckle taunt to the crowd. However, over the years, many superstars have used other superstars' taunts to mock their opponent.
Look at me, I'm a Baptista. I shoot the lasers from my hands like I'm 8 years old.
Whenever a superstar steals their opponent's taunt, it always gets a huge reaction from the audience because it's quite a rare sight to see during a match, and the crowd always eats it up.
Look at this! He is walking Triple H!
But when do these moments happen? Well, join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at 10 superstars who mocked their opponent with a stolen taunt. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Number 1. Stephanie McMahon, the Yes Chant. The feud between Daniel Bryan and The Authority will likely go down as one of the greatest feuds of the PG era in WWE, starting at SummerSlam 2013 with Triple H turning heel and turning on Daniel Bryan in the process. What followed was a near 18-month story of Bryan trying to overcome the odds, but The Authority stopping him at every avenue. The payoff to the storyline was supposed to be Bryan winning the world title at WrestleMania 30 after beating Triple H and then Batista and Randy Orton in the main event. However, following the pay-per-view, Bryan would suffer a devastating neck injury which would force him to surrender the world title. Following Bryan's injury, Stephanie McMahon would regularly feature on WWE television doing the famous Yes Chant, mocking Bryan and becoming the biggest heel on Raw. Stephanie mocking Bryan in this manner would lead to her facing Bryan's wife Brie Bella in a match at 2014 SummerSlam pay-per-view, which put a close to the Bryan vs Authority storyline once and for all. Number 9. Triple H, The Undertaker's Tombstone Taunt. WrestleMania 27 has attained a reputation for being one of the worst WrestleMania events in history. However, the undeniable highlight of the show was the match between Triple H and The Undertaker. The match continued the trend of The Undertaker having WrestleMania show stealers, and the match would act as part 1 in what would become an epic saga between the two, which would culminate at the following year's WrestleMania inside a Hell in a Cell. The match itself involved Undertaker taking a lot of damage, including chair shots and multiple pedigrees, and one of the more notable spots in the match involved Triple H picking up The Undertaker and executing a tombstone piledriver. Triple H then followed this up by doing The Undertaker's signature pin, mocking the Phenom and adding extra insult to injury. The spot became most memorable because it was one of the worst times that somebody other than Kane had executed a tombstone on The Undertaker, and it also marked the first time that The Undertaker's signature pose would be used by someone other than the dead man. Number 3. CM Punk, Suck It. CM Punk had a bizarre 2011. Following the pipe bomb promo, Punk was the hottest wrestler in the world, and following his title win at 2011's Money in the Bank, he was on his way to becoming the biggest babyface in WWE. However, the storyline quickly got complicated as Kevin Nash and Triple H became involved for seemingly no logical reason.
OMG, Kevin Nash, WTF, thought he was dead, LOL.
This was all supposed to lead to Punk facing Nash at the 2011 Night of Champions pay-per-view, which didn't happen as Nash wasn't medically cleared, and instead they decided to book a babyface Punk versus a babyface Triple H in a weird storyline where the crowd was confused as to who they were supposed to cheer for. One of the more memorable segments leading up to their Night of Champions match involved Punk knocking down Triple H with a microphone shot and then delivering Triple H's trademark Suck It taunt to the delight of the live audience. Number 4. John Morrison, tuning up the band. John Morrison is often compared to Shawn Michaels, as both are incredibly athletic and both are known for having great matches. This comparison was furthered in a match between DX and The Miz and Morrison on the November 3rd, 2008 edition of Raw. Towards the end of the match, Morrison would tune up the band and execute a picture-perfect sweet chin music on Triple H. Miz and Morrison both then performed crotch chops on a fallen Triple H. Notably, Chris Jericho had also performed the taunt and finisher 5 years prior at WrestleMania 19 in another memorable moment. Number 6. Santino Marella, Melina Split. Santino Marella was one of the most successful comedic wrestlers of all time. Having attained a lengthy WWE career that included 2 Intercontinental title reigns, Santino left a lasting impression on fans. One of his most iconic moments included him attempting and failing to do Melina's famous leg split taunt that she would do upon her entrance. The moment occurred on the 1st December 2008 edition of Raw, as Santino would attempt to do Melina's entrance. However, he would awkwardly and hilariously just fall off the ring apron as fans laughed in hysterics at the former Intercontinental Champion. Number 6. RVD, Triple H's Water Spit. When Undisputed Champion Brock Lesnar was moved to SmackDown in the summer of 2002, it left Raw without a World Champion. The Raw General Manager decided to just introduce a new world title, and it would be the iconic Big Gold title, and he would award it directly to Triple H.
Because, ladies and gentlemen, your new world champion, Triple H!
This received criticism from fans at the time, as they felt like the title should have been won in a match or a tournament, and for Triple H to win the title in this manner wasn't the best first step in making the title remotely credible. Triple H's first defense of the title would be against the hottest babyface on Raw, Rob Van Dam. The match itself would take place at Unforgiven 2002, a pay-per-view that not many fans remember and is most well known for featuring the first 1v1 match between Taker and Brock Lesnar. The match between Triple H and RVD was rather underwhelming, with the highlight of the match being RVD impersonating Triple H's famous water spit taunt to rile up the heel champion at the start of the match. Number 7. Ted DiBiase and Cody Rhodes do Randy Orton's signature pose. The idea behind the Legacy stable was to create two new stars in Cody Rhodes and Ted DiBiase Jr. As the tenure of the stable went on, it was easy to realize that WWE felt like DiBiase was the star of the group. Their plans for DiBiase to be the breakout star of the group quickly fizzled out after he failed to create an organic connection with the crowd. Randy Orton would turn on DiBiase and Rhodes in 2010, and this would ultimately lead to a match between the three men at WrestleMania 26. Orton would be the babyface of the feud, whilst DiBiase and Rhodes would be the heels. But during the build to their triple threat match at Mania, Orton would lose a 2-on-1 handicap match against DiBiase and Rhodes, and would execute Orton's famous pose to mock Orton and give the two men extra heat heading into WrestleMania. Number 8. Trish Stratus mocks Sasha Banks. The 2018 Royal Rumble was historic for two reasons. Firstly, it featured one of the most acclaimed Rumble matches of all time, which would be won by Shinsuke Nakamura, and would also feature the first ever Women's Royal Rumble match, which would eventually be won by Asuka. The women's match would feature surprise appearances from the likes of Lita, Molly Holly, Vicky Guerrero, and Trish Stratus. Trish's surprise appearance at number 30 received the biggest reaction of the entire match, and to see her wrestle and interact with the likes of Asuka and Sasha Banks were a delight to fans. Trish famously mocked Sasha's signature pose in the match, but it would ultimately lead to Sasha eliminating the WWE Hall of Famer. Number 9. Ric Flair mocks The Rock. WrestleMania 20 featured numerous top matches and moments. These included Chris Benoit finally winning the world title, although that would be erased from history, The Undertaker returning to WWE as the Dead Man, and John Cena winning his first singles title in WWE. Also on the show, The Rock would wrestle for the first time in almost a year as he teamed with Mick Foley to face the trio of Batista, Ric Flair, and Randy Orton. The match was a nice hit of nostalgia, with the right team winning at the end of the match, but it's famous for one spot in particular. Flair would hilariously go for a People's Elbow on The Rock, and Flair would even add The Rock's famous pre-People's Elbow taunt prior to attempting the move. The move would be unsuccessful, but nevertheless, it was a hilarious moment to see on the grand stage of WrestleMania. And number 10, Brock Lesnar does The Undertaker's trademark sit-up. John Cena getting squashed by Brock Lesnar at 2014 SummerSlam pay-per-view was without a doubt one of the most famous squash matches in WWE history. They had never booked Cena in this manner before the match with Lesnar, and it was truly shocking to see. The match started with Lesnar hitting Cena with an F5, and following that, the match would be completely one-sided. Cena would get a total of 4 moves in during the entire match and would hit another F5 at the 16-minute mark to win the WWE title in the main event. The match was no doubt historic, but it also featured several callbacks to Lesnar ending the streak months prior. When Cena hit Lesnar with an AA, it was good enough for a 2 count. However, Lesnar followed the pin attempt, deciding to perform the Undertaker's sit-up, mocking the Dead Man in the process. But there you have it, folks. 10-time superstars mock their opponent with a stolen taunt. I'm sure there's many more, so do you guys want to see a part 2? Let us know in the comments down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook for exclusive lists, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.